We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkies. Welcome back to Deal Junkies. I'm Gabe Johansson here in the studio today with Trevor Howard, Mike Nuss, and a very, very special guest. This guy lights up a room. I don't know why, but every time I walk into a room, I think the lights are out in the podcast studio right now, and I can barely see it so bright in here. We got Rob Harden. Thanks for being with us today, Rob.
Thank you, guys. I've been wanting to come down and hang with you guys for so long now. Just being in the room with Gabe, Mike, Trevor. Oh, my God. Well, Dane's not here, but, you know.
Everything in your life has led to this moment.
100%.
Well, I'm wondering,
hiding out in the shadows. Yes.
How do you have so much energy all of the time, every time I see you?
I would say energy drinks really help out. Lots of caffeine. You can overdo caffeine, by the way.
Oh, I'm aware, yeah.
Many times.
Oh, well, in all seriousness, Rob is just one of the most positive people I've ever encountered. He's a big part of the Sub 2 community, part of the Pace Morby tribe, and he's out spreading the word. Owns today a portfolio north of $13 million and growing, and owns Indigo Construction. And we're going to hear Rob's story today and talk about things as we go along. I've heard it before, but I can't wait to hear it again. So, Rob, kick us off. Tell us, kind of take us back to where your journey begins in real estate. Like, you can go back even further if you want. Like, were you born with this in your heart, or did it just something that you acquired along the way as you went?
Definitely acquired along the way. My story started with just being like most homeowners who buy a house and you're like, I want to buy another house. And I heard that the path to wealth is to just rent out the one I had. So that's what I did. I moved. I rented out my first property was in Molalla, Oregon. So good old. If you're from there, you know it's Molalla.
Do you like Molalla?
I love Molalla. Like Molalla, that was our first big subdivision. So as a drywall contractor, we had just been doing small little projects, like just infill houses and things like that back in the early 2000s. And then we had a builder that, one of our guys that worked for us, his uncle happened to be this really famous guy named Dale Burghardt, who owned like all of Molalla. And he developed this, this big subdivision. And that was our first big, project that we got to take on. So we did like, I think the first year, probably like 100 houses out there. So, and after doing that drive, because I live in Tualatin and I grew up in Tualatin, after doing that drive every single day, my builder goes, why don't you just buy one of my houses? It didn't even dawn on me like home ownership. So I was like, okay, what does that look like? So he helped me with financing. He let me actually do some of the work. So of course we did the drywall, did the insulation, roofing. I did concrete work. My brother had a concrete flat company. So we're doing, like flat work and stuff like that. But yeah, built the house. And then once I decided to, move back, I was tired of living in Molalla because that drive to Tualatin is brutal. Then I ended up buying a condo in 2006, which is kind of cool because it ties into, I literally just sold that on lease option 2 days ago. So I sold that property, lease option that I've owned.
Tualatin or?
Yeah.
Okay.
The one in Tualatin. The one in Molalla I still have. I'll probably convert everything into lease option because it's such an amazing way to exit a property. And we can talk about that too.
Well, let's talk about it right now.
You want to hear it?
I like deals. Rob's going to have so many deals that are interesting for us to talk about because all your deals are crazy.
Well, this one is so cool because the Tualatin condo, so the cool thing about selling on lease option is that you can actually sell it for the future value. So you're not selling something for today's value. You're selling it for like 3 years from now value.
Are you escalating year by year? Okay.
Yep.
What's your appreciation
usually
rate?
It's 5%. So we're tacking 5% per year. Boom, boom, boom. So like my condo in Tualatin's worth $440,000 as is right now. Well, one of them recently sold. So there's a comp that sold recently. Same price. Mine's a little bit nicer because I updated it in 2020. New floors, new kitchen, new everything. But yeah, so I sold it. I found it a lease option buyer that's giving me $510,000. So they're paying $510,000 for it. They're giving me an option fee of $25,000. So I just collected that on Wednesday. And then we set the rent rate at $1,960. So, because originally when I marketed it, I was asking for $2,700 if they brought in an option fee of $7,500. So you play the scale where you're like, hey, do you want lower rent? We can give me a higher fee and I'll offset it.
And you took $510,000, you said, on a $440,000 $500,000 that's then going to appreciate by 5% on top of that.
No, it's
they're 510 is the
that is the exit price. Yeah. Now the cool part is that you don't have selling costs, so there's no agent fees, there's no closing costs, all that stuff you put on the buyer when they go to execute. So when you sell something for 510, you really literally are selling it for 510.
Yeah, you save another 6% on it.
Yeah.
How long is that contract for?
For 3 years.
What happens if they don't execute?
Okay, so here's where I've deviated from the industry. The industry typically goes, well, if you don't execute, you got to do it again. That's typically what they do. What I've done is I said, hey, if you can't get financing at the 3-year mark, I will sell or carry it. So I'll sell it to them on land contract. Mm-hmm. But I told them I would not go less than a 5% interest rate. I'll do market rate, but nothing less. If it comes, if we get rates below 5 again, just go, come on, you can get a loan for that.
Well, that's very nice of you rather than just taking their $25,000 and telling them to leave.
I agree with you. See, I think it's a better setup. And if you actually look at the numbers, so you're not only inflating the purchase price, and then you're going to get financing on this, created equity. So that's when you offer financing, you're, like in this case, it would be like 585 or 485. Yeah, if I do the math right, quickly in my head, I think so.
So are they your tenant or are they your buyer? Like how does landlord-tenant law affect you in this case?
Yes.
Like so they have to still treat the building right and do the things you want. You still have landlord rights while they're in there until they execute?
Yeah, you're a landlord. But the conversation I have with them is I go in and I say, hey, so after they've understood how it all works, and say, hey, so just so we're clear, you are an owner now. I need you to treat the property as owner. You're on the hook for all repairs, all maintenance, everything. And I'm like, this is the ugly side of it. I don't want to say this, but like, I really don't want to hear from you for anything. I just want you to make your payments on time. That's all I care about. And if you kind of have that upfront expectation, I put that in part of my upfront agreement with them going into it, so they know like this is the deal.
You basically have a triple net lease now.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Oh. So
interesting.
How come for you personally right now you didn't want, because I'm assuming you have a bunch of equity in this, right?
Tons.
Yeah, so how come you didn't want the equity out now and you're willing to take it later?
See, I do want the equity out now, but what I did to mitigate that is that I got a HELOC. Because my underlying mortgage is like $160,000,
Mm-hmm.
so the underlying's really low. And I went to Oregonian's Credit Union, got a $100K line on it, and I'm already using it on a project. I do want to find another. There's other ones that do non-owner occupied that give you higher LTV, but Oregonian's was just so fast.
So you were able to get a non-owner occupied HELOC on the house?
Yep.
Through Oregonian Credit Union?
Yeah, Oregonian Credit Union. They'll do up to $100K, 75 LTV on non-owner occupied.
Oh, that's
what
cool.
rate did they give you right now?
Right now I'm getting, they have an introductory rate for the first 12 months, so it's 5.5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's super low for the first 12 months. And then after that, I have 2 with them. My other one's 8% right now.
Does it float?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does adjust, yep. But the first year, not. It's locked in at 5.5.
So are you starting to exit your portfolio stage of life, or are you still building?
Upgrading. So what I'm doing with this, the way I'm viewing this one.
Man.
Yeah, upgrading. Because I like multi. Well, I want to get where you guys are at, like doing the multi. Like I think that's really, really cool, and that's the place to be. But I'm stair stepping, so I'm gonna take this one. If they execute, I'm gonna roll it into like a 4-plex, 3-plex, 4-plex, something like that. If I don't have anything that lined up right now, since I have a lot of deal flow, I'll just 1031 into like another property that I'm purchasing. If I need to do that, if they exit, because a lot of these ones when they do exit, they're not giving you a ton of. Like the paperwork's set up to where I need 3 months of give me a heads up 3 months so I can kind of plan something. But other people I've talked to, like a lot of them come up and go, hey, by the way, I'm getting a refi and it's going to be closing like in 2 weeks. Like how can you line up a 1031 on that? It makes it tough.
What's your tax guy say about this? I've talked to some tax professionals that tell me that if you sign a master lease with option to purchase, that the IRS could deem that as your sale date going back 3 years, and then you would not be able to complete your 1031 exchange. Did you get different advice?
No, I've heard that as well. I've definitely heard that as well.
I mean, you're still entitled on your tax return.
Yeah.
You're entitled under the LLC that you own it in. You trade into another property. The next property owns it in that LLC. Like, I don't know how
it's an audit track record. So you're reporting taxes while it's on lease option. You're reporting taxes as a rental.
Are you still taking depreciation?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you qualify under the 1031 rules.
Correct.
That you're still...
So they would have to audit your file. You'd have to be audited. They'd have to audit your paperwork, see that it was actually a lease option 3 years prior, and then they would unwind your exchange.
So you may it may not be something that triggers an audit, but you may fail an audit. There is a risk at failing.
That's what most people don't understand is it's whether or not you can do a 1031, you rely on your attorney to do the paperwork, but it's all audit related. And then even attorneys are up for interpretation. And it all comes in the interpretation is because it's an audit. It's, are you going to get through an audit? And an attorney will say, or a CPA, in this scenario, no, you will not. But another attorney or another CPA will say in that same scenario, yes, you will. Or here's the downside risk that you're taking if you do, in fact, get audited. So a lot of stuff that gets done technically doesn't qualify under the true analysis of the code, but it never gets audited, never gets seen, and never becomes a problem.
But if you carry the contract afterwards, I think then you're not gonna be able to 1030.
The land sale contract would be different.
So you think the land sale? Because
depending again how you report it, because you can do land sale contracts and the sellers can report them as sales, and they're good with that, and they pay their proportionate gains, and they stop doing depreciation, and some of them don't record them on their taxes, and they look like rentals on their taxes.
So that makes no sense to me that you wouldn't be able to lease option 1031 later because your actual sale date is that.
It's because
I think an implied sale.
It's an implied sale. A conservative tax attorney would say that you agreed upon all the terms, the price, everything, and they gave a down payment. Like
and if an auditor audits you and they find that in the file, they will say this is an implied sale. That's their job.
Yeah,
this is an implied sale under this yada 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 under the IRS code section, whatever. We are now going to unwind your exchange, and they'll do all the math, and now you owe this tax plus penalty plus interest, and that's now a quantifiable thing that you can make a risk analysis around.
Rob, are you a risk-averse person, or do you feel like you're a risk taker?
I take way too much risk. That's the problem. I run head first into a lot of things.
I mean, because a lot of the stuff you're doing is really kind of living in the gray. You're stretching the boundaries of how most people buy real estate.
Oh, 100%.
We totally relate to, but you're always in that mode of like, half the people think you're a criminal and the other half think you're a genius, and it's like, okay, well, somewhere in between there, it's both. Like, yeah, I mean, we're not trying to do anything illegal,
Shades
but we're definitely trying to
shades of sub 2.
Let's have you preface this because a lot of people listening might not know what you're talking about with like subject to. So explain how you're.
Yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah,
we'll get into it later.
You want to do it now? You want to talk sub 2?
Let's talk all of it. But you know what? One of the important things though to keep in mind with we do not call it a down payment. When you're selling on lease option, it's a option fee. Words are very important. You got to make sure that your contract, like the one I use.
Do you report that fee on your tax return?
Of course, that's income.
And so now you have a track record of an implied sale.
No, that's not taxable income until the option is recorded. That option fee
you gained the money, it should show up on your tax return.
Hey, I'm just saying what I read.
And as a property manager, I know that they're really conservative with how you charge fees as a landlord. So you got to make sure that it doesn't look like any sort of rental fee, pet fee, carpet cleaning fee.
100%, 2 contracts. Yeah. So I have a lease agreement, and if you're ever going to do one of these, never combine the agreements. That's the biggest no-no. Especially if you have the reason is
the gray area.
No, this is why you don't do it is because if you go before a judge, I've had friends that have done this where they've made that mistake. Judge goes, oh, you can't evict them. They have implied ownership of the property. Therefore, you have to foreclose on them. I'm like, whoa.
So that's black and white. You want 2 contracts black and white. The gray area is the conversation. Hey, you can't put all the maintenance and you can't put all this stuff on the tenant.
I mean, you can't triple net lease though,
No, you in Oregon landlord tenant law, you cannot force them to maintain your building. Right. And so that's the other part of the contract is the sale portion, and it's a mentality. And so you're trying to state a mentality, and the person he's looking for to be on the other end of this has to be a homeowner mentality. You don't want a tenant mentality in there for 2 reasons. 1, maintain your property. 2, perform on the back end, because you do want them to close and you do want your equity and you do want to exchange it into something. And so that's where I love your mindset. When it isn't predatory loan to own, get it back, we'll rinse and repeat. It's I want to set someone up for success and delay my portfolio upgrading and then focus on what I'm working on in the short term. And then you get an equity bump down the road that you use based on the opportunities you have in the future.
So I think 2 interesting parts on what you were talking about on that. I think the option fee is tax-free until it's executed is what I read in talking to the CPAs. And then the interesting part is about depreciation and who takes ownership. So as a buyer, because we've done a few lease options also. So as a buyer, my understanding is you can take depreciation on the property if you are building equity within the property on the front end, and your option contract is long enough, like over 2 years or so. But also on the tax return, like you could totally, both of you could technically do it until
I closed a big lease option for a client, and both buyer and seller depreciated the asset for 5 years before it was paid off. It's like one of them said no, it was a purchase, and the other said no, it was a lease. And it's like they both went to the IRS. The IRS, never said anything about it. It didn't get caught.
My understanding is the equity that you're building within it is the differentiator within that.
Well,
to you, it doesn't really matter as the buyer. You don't care what they do.
Understand how AI will change risk, right? So the IRS does not want a buyer and seller depreciating the exact same property. AI scanning tax returns. The addresses are in the tax returns on those Schedule 5 or 6 or state, whatever it is. The data is out there. They're just not finding it. That's the risk. The risk is based on their ability to find the data on you in the gray area of the interpretation, and then always understand the IRS guy will be the most conservative interpretation. Mm-hmm. And so that's how, but AI will change some of this. Like AI going forward will change how we do things.
So I have a question about your buyer. Do they get essence of title? Do you record a memorandum of lease or something for them?
No, I don't. No, I don't want. In fact, it's actually in the option agreement. So that's the other important thing too. Is like the option agreement's very specific. They can't record anything against the property. And the maintenance stuff is all in the option agreement. So in order to fulfill the option agreement, they have to maintain the property. And if they do run this is the other conversation I have with them too, is if you have a big ticket item, so like I get it. If a furnace, like in this case, it doesn't apply. The two that I've done, it doesn't apply because the other house was brand new. Everything brand new. It was 8 months old. This one, I replaced the furnace, I replaced the water. Everything is updated recently. But if I sold an older property, this is the conversation I would have is, hey, if something major goes out and you can't afford it, obviously I want the property maintained. I need, health and safety are very important. So if you can't afford that, I will take care of it and I will add it to the back end of the purchase price. So I want the property maintained. I don't want them not having heat or plumbing or water or something major. So yeah, that helps them out as well.
How'd you learn about this?
This one here, actually, most of the stuff I've learned is actually in the sub-2 community. Like joining, it's kind of crazy. Like once you get in, we call it the vault. So there's every recording ever made. So you have 5 years of, actually it's going on 6 years now, of every recording Pace has done, and then community members have done inside there. So every type of thing you want to learn about, everything is in there. So that's I went down the rabbit hole of lease options.
And to get access to that vault, you join.
Yep, join sub-2.
The sub-2 community. Yep. And how does that cost money? Or
yes.
How does that work?
Right now it's around. I think it's around $10,000.
One-time fee, or you charge? Okay.
One time, and you're in for life.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah,
you've definitely gotten $10,000 worth.
Way far.
This is going to be my favorite podcast because we started Rob's story and we already turned it into very detailed deal talk. All right. So going back.
Story. You don't care about your background.
I wanted to know what his parents were teaching him when he was little.
All right, let's go back to that stuff then, and we'll get sidetracked again.
No, I mean it's okay. You talk about whatever you want. I'm really interested to hear more about sub-2. Like it's intriguing. Like this is something that we talked about, kind of living in the gray. I think. Do you feel that sub-2 today is gray area still, or do you think that it's sort of everybody? We've worked through all the nuances.
It's been
now
around
to where
forever.
It's bank fraud. I mean, honestly, in the black and white of it, it's bank fraud.
No.
If there is a due on sale clause on the note and you do not pay it off and you sell it, you're breaking the terms of your...
I 100% disagree. 100%
It might break loan covenants as loan...
They have the right to call the loan due. There's not a due on sale jail. Like, it's not...
You don't think there's a due on sale jail?
No.
No, it's called bank fraud jail. And Trevor, this is why I call you a golden retriever.
How many people are in bank fraud jail?
You just have not been around long enough to see it. So it's not based on the vacuum of this one transaction. But if you get audited and you get investigated by the SEC and they see that you violated 15 bank covenants, they're charging you for bank fraud. It's not about this performing a due on sale and sending a notice of default and paying it off. It's a track record of how you run business. And so you are susceptible to bank fraud. The risk and probability really, 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 really low. But that's why people think you're a crook, because they expand it to It's bank fraud.
I would disagree.
Okay,
let's let Rob. Rob knows the most about it. Rob, you touch
So it
base
comes-
on that.
okay,
Are you going to jail, Rob? Is this your is this your last podcast?
I heard that. I heard some police sirens outside. No, so where the real risk runs into is when you're selling sub 2, you are violating a contract. You signed a mortgage
with an FDIC insured federal institution.
So there is risk on that end, but it's everybody that has gotten in trouble with these kind of things. It's always been more of a contractual thing. It's not like you're not going to jail. There's no like do on sale jail but where people do run into what Mike's talking about. Now, this is where a lot of people will preach trusts. Put it into a trust, and that just takes away all the risk, right? To put it in a trust. And that actually creates the biggest risk. The reason is because what is your intent? Your intent is to hide the transaction from the bank, from people. And that's the reason why they do it. Like if I was selling my property, a lot of people will teach this. I'm going to create a trust called Robert Harden Family Trust, and I'm going to put the property in it. Then I'm going to sell the beneficial interest to Trevor. So Trevor's buying the property through a trust, and we're transferring ownership that way. But when you do it that way, and this happened in Florida. There are people that did go to jail for doing this because they did it that manner. And then when the bank said, "Hey, send us your trust documents," they would send them over and make them look like the previous seller still owned the property, because that's their whole intent behind it. And then when they investigated, they found out that they were doing it incorrect, and that's mortgage fraud. And that's exactly how you get in trouble doing it that way.
So we're assuming our listeners even know what sub 2 is. So back us up just a bit and give us the quick 30-second pitch on what a sub 2 is.
Okay, so sub 2 is when you're purchasing a property subject to the existing mortgage or existing liens. And that's it, basically. So
we used to call it a wrap.
Yeah,
you wrap the debt, but now they call it sub 2.
No, it's the same thing.
The hat looks way better, by the way, with sub 2 than wrap. I don't think it would look as cool with wrap on there.
The wrap community.
Depends how you spell it.
The wrap community.
Yeah, that would be pretty funny. But yeah, that's the basics of it. And you can do it with any kind of lien. So it can be any liens.
Mm-hmm. And the idea is title and loan separate.
It's a title.
You can transfer title and loan remains in place. You service the loan.
It's a title term, subject to. You're giving title insurance subject to this condition.
Yeah, I think Mike's really wrong. What are your thoughts on what he said right there?
Well, I mean, you are purchasing it subject to. I mean, it's actually
the title. Talk to your title person, and they'll show you that's the exact term they use. The term.
Not about the term. About going to jail for.
Jail. You're not going to jail.
Stop for a second. This is where you don't understand what I'm saying. He's talking about the vacuum of the deal. Mm-hmm. The way to understand risk to laws is not the vacuum of the deal. It's the process of the law. Mm-hmm. So if you get in this vacuum, you may or may not be in an issue in this vacuum. But if you get in this vacuum and it triggers someone looking at you, and now they expand it to all your operation, and now they see this as a different example, they're not charging you on this one vacuum. They're charging you on your business operation of committing fraud. And I'll give you the clear...
I don't think it's fraud, because I've ran this by so many attorneys. Do you know how many attorneys I've talked to about this and have them draft
Have you talked to them completely the right... Are you talking to them apples to Robert, or are you talking to apples to me? Because I think you're talking apples to oranges. Robert is apples and I'm oranges.
So, Can I understand? Is this your point? Your point is if you do it on a one-off case, it doesn't matter. If you're doing it as a business model, that's where you have.
That's where you have risk. Yes. And the clearest example of it that I know of is Greg Pinio. And so he was slapping second mortgages behind first, so seller seconds behind first, which technically violates a covenant.
Yeah.
What he went to jail for was not the vacuum of what he violated. He got investigated for that one violation, which opened up an investigation, which saw this was a track record with multiple people, and he got charged along with others. Some were let off the hook. He was the one thrown in jail because he masterminded bank fraud. So the charges of how they're processing what you're doing matters. Your business operation is what matters. That's how you understand the risk, is the process of the law. You're correct, and you're correct in the vacuum of the deal. But the reason people think this is fraudulent and people think you're a crook is because if you extrapolate it over a big operation, it is bank fraud, and you can go to jail for bank fraud.
So I have a question. The loan covenants are in the mortgage that the seller signed. They have a commitment to the lender to not sell that property to somebody else without telling them about it.
Yep.
So if they sell on sub 2 and Rob buys on sub 2, it's really the seller that's committing bank fraud, not the buyer. So Rob's safe. It's just all your sellers might go to jail.
No.
But they only did it once, each one, at every single bill that you bought.
The sellers...
So it's not their business model is not to sell all their houses to Rob.
The sellers are liable in the vacuum. The buyer is liable in the business operation.
But where would Rob be breaking any covenants? Because he doesn't have a fiduciary to the lender.
He's consulting and convincing people to break bank violations over and over and over and over.
Yeah, I do think Mike's wrong.
Yes, Mike is. Yeah, dude. It's so you're
so
not
any
breaking,
attorneys that listen to this, I'd love for you to chime in.
We have attorneys listening.
Yeah,
we got lots.
They're going to put Rob in jail after this episode.
They're at the door right now.
I get, because your thought, Rob, is you're not breaking laws. You are violating your loan doc, and it lays out what happens if you do that. You are taking an action that it states in your loan doc, and it says if you do that, we will send you a 90-day notice, and you can refinance, you can sell, you can transfer title back. You're not. You are breaking this agreement.
It's a loan covenant.
Specific term. You're not committing bank
Why are
fraud.
you just trying to
You're not committing bank
Why
fraud.
are you trying to close your ears to the expansion beyond what you're talking about? That's what I'm trying to get at. Yes, it is. You get called, you get a notice of default, you have all those options to cure it. If you cure it, guess what? You're never getting investigated. It is a very low probability issue. But you can't say that you're not. This is what are you breaking? A federal contract.
Okay,
I think you could go do it 1,000 times, like Pace has and then publicly states this is the
and have a very low probability. Absolutely.
How is Pace not in?
Well, I think what Greg's you mentioned Greg's. I'm thinking he was getting mortgages or first position notes in his name, right?
Yes, correct. So he's tied to it. So it's different.
It is different.
And
Yeah,
he
because
falsified contracts.
I'm not saying the risk is high, but I'm trying to say, why do people think you're a crook? You need a.
I don't. So you keep. I don't think anyone thinks Rob.
What
is
are you
a crook.
talking about? People don't think he's a crook. 90% of the real estate industry
I would
thinks
never
Sub 2 is
lock
crook.
this guy up, though. I love Rob.
No, I agree. But you go to 90% of real estate is retail. Those people think Subject 2 is breaking the law. I'm trying to delineate why people think this. In a vacuum, you are not breaking the law. The seller is violating a federal document covenants with the right to cure. But I'm saying if you think that you have no risk...
I think your risk is getting your loan called.
Your risk is getting the loan called. That is the biggest risk. Actually, the biggest risk in the whole situation, honestly, with all these transactions, is if you default. Like, that's the thing. If you
as long as they get their money, they don't care.
Dude, no one cares. The bank's like, hey, I have so many accounts of people telling me, what, you got due on sale called. What'd you do? And he's like, I just called the bank. I'm like, well, okay. And then what happened? You go, we told them that we're making the payments. And then what'd they say? They said, keep making the payments. And I'm like, okay, that's it? And like, that's it.
I think that if there really was a due on sale jail, Trevor would go there on purpose just to learn how to do different deals.
Think of that room, though. My God, all the experience in that room.
It would be a mastermind. You'd be locked in jail for months just learning how to do different kinds of deals. Would it be worth it?
Maybe.
But that is the risk. It's getting the note called, not having the liquidity, not being able to pay it off. And then if you can't pay it off, what are the repercussions after that?
So that's what I was going to ask you is you talked about if you get investigated in the vacuum, what triggers that investigation?
Not paying off a note, putting a seller in a bad position, then them filing.
So when the shit hits the fan, that's when everybody starts getting their panties in a bundle and going, we got to look at this deeper. And then that could lead to other things.
100%.
And that's low risk. If you do the deal right, it's almost no risk.
But in the people you've talked to who have been investigated, they call the bank, they tell them, yeah, this is what we're doing. They say, keep sending us our money. That's what we want is our money.
And then some of them, the ones that don't, they're like, no, we need to see a title go back. We just ask them, what are you looking to see here? And they go, we just want title to go back the way it was.
And so you put the title back in the seller's name?
Yep. Title goes back. Lease option gets set up. The exact same terms of the whole agreement. So you just move forward with the same terms.
So why wouldn't you have just done it like that from the very beginning?
So this is why. Okay. So imagine this. Imagine I'm going through life and I sell a property on lease option to you, and then all of a sudden my construction company crashes and I go through divorce, all the worst things that can happen to me. I have judgments coming in, liens coming in, and they're getting attached to all the properties I own because they're finding it. But you bought it from me, and now there's all these judgments and liens get piled up, and I still have title. You don't have title. Puts you in a really, really bad spot. So that's why we want to transfer title, so we can avoid all that.
Way cleaner.
So one interesting part, you tell me, but on the lease option, I was thinking as a buyer, if you purchase it with lease option, you have a 100% write-off of your lease payment, which is pretty cool. When you're taking a mortgage, you can only write off the interest. So potentially you have additional tax savings on the front end, and then you can execute the option.
So we should buy everything on a lease option and sell everything on a lease option.
Could. You totally could. I mean,
I don't know. We're going to jail if we listen to Mike, though.
The way to mitigate it, though, is to put liens on. So that's how, like, if we did, like we just did one of these where we sold a property on lease option, and to secure the buyer, we gave them, so they came up with, I think it was like 10 or 15,000, and we had them record a lien on the property to secure their position, just in case if other liens come in, then they have a way to, foreclose.
What kind of lien was it?
It was just a note and deed. We just give them they would sign a note and deed of trust.
So you can't record a trust deed on a property that already has a first position.
Yeah, you
on
can.
It.
Mm-hmm. In the conventional space, you can put seconds all day, and it doesn't break loan codes.
Oh, so it'd be in second position because the first is already on it.
Yeah.
So they get a lien behind the...
Yeah, but then the goal is now you have that takes up all the additional equity. So even if you put a third or a fourth...
Okay, so this is where I'm lost, because in the residential commercial world, it's different. Our commercial loan covenants, we can get away with a lot more than you can on the residential, but that's one of the things that's almost always going to be there, is they will not let us record a junior lien behind the first. And so you're saying on a residential loan, they'll allow you to record seconds against, because people do that all the time. They get HELOCs, they do... Okay, so it's just a lot more acceptable in the 1 to 4 unit space, is what you're... So we're not sub-2ing 20 unit apartment complexes where my brain is at. You could, but you actually probably be safer to do it that way, but
you totally could. Like, you can all day, like...
I was in escrow yesterday meeting with the seller because he had to fly into town, and he's like, "Oh, I think I heard about this deal in your episode. Like, we talked about it."
Wow.
Your piece of land?
Yeah. It was funny. The escrow guy goes to the Corvallis meetups. He walks in. I'm there with the seller, and he goes, "Yeah, I've seen you speak before." I'm like, "No way." And then he sits down. He's like, "Yeah, I love your podcast. I think you guys talked about this deal on the podcast, actually." It was awesome.
Okay, so let's go back. Good. How did you get into all of this again? Like, you bought these first 2 houses in 2006, and then what? How'd you?
Yeah, back in 2006, and then pretty much from that point forward, I wasn't involved in real estate. I didn't really wasn't interested. I started listening to Bigger Pockets back in, I want to say 2014, 2015. And I was really, oh my God, that really opened my mind. Just Brandon Turner and just hearing everybody's story. And everybody, of course, is doing BRRRR deals. That's like, and people still are.
And that makes sense to you as a construction guy, probably. You're like,
completely. I'm like, I can buy something and then refi it and get my money back. It sounded amazing. So that's where I got started, where I was getting really interested on that. And then in 2018, I decided I wanted to get into wholesaling. I was like, oh my God, all these guys were making tons of money.
So had you BRRR'd a bunch of deals?
No, it didn't BRRRR. I literally was learning. You
didn't do any deals?
Did you have analysis paralysis?
Yes, analysis paralysis. Yeah, 100%.
Because you had money, because you had a construction company.
Well, we had money, but everything was going into the construction company. We were coming out of the 2008 crash. Mm-hmm. Like, that one just decimated us. That was the worst thing ever. We were doing 300 homes a month, so we were doing drywall. So it was between us. There's just at that point there's 2 big players in the space. It was us and Westside Drywall, and they were down in Hubbard, Oregon, and we were in Tigard at the time, and we were doing 300 homes a month. And when the crash happened, we went from 300 homes a month down to 30 homes a month in like 6 months. Like this slide, it just was abrupt, massive. And we pivoted at this point. We got into commercial. We were doing schools, fire stations, stuff that we had no idea what we were doing. We were bidding stuff. Like, our team would just go, if they have drywall, we can bid it, right? And we're like, yeah, let's do that. So we started bidding. We got this school in Hood River, and I remember my estimator at the time, his name's Paul, he was running the job, and he goes, "Hey Rob, have you heard of these isolation clips?" I'm like, "I have no idea what those are." He's like, "Well, apparently we got to do the whole bottom floor of the building with them." I'm like, "Okay, how much is that?" He's like, "I priced it out, the material's $30,000. I'm like, "Did we account for it?" He's like, No. I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah, we lost a ton of money through that whole trial and error.
I've heard of all the trades, drywall is like the worst. Is that true? Is that like
100%?
What makes it the worst?
Well, you know what?
It seems like it'd be pretty easy.
Are we going to listen to complain about that industry?
I mean, is it doing the work itself that's the worst?
Absolutely not. I love doing it because I grew up with my dad doing it every summer since I was like 6 years old. So I loved it.
Your dad was a drywaller.
Yes, 100% drywaller. He built houses. My grandpa had a ready mix company back in Montana. So our family's from Montana originally.
Okay.
Work dried up. We came out here in the mid 80s, and then my dad, he had been doing drywall there, and then he came out here and started doing drywall here, working for different general contractors and subcontractors, and then he started his own business, and then that's what led us to where we're at here.
Did he ever do real estate deals?
No, he never did. I wish he would have got into real estate or was a plumber or electrician.
This whole sub 2 thing, I think, was born in the 80s with 18% interest, wasn't it? Like everybody was like, you can't go get a loan from the bank.
Yeah, it was more land sale contracts than subject 2s back then.
Land sale.
Because you just didn't have any mortgages, and the mortgages didn't have much leverage to them.
Gotcha.
Subject 2 really came out at 2020.
Well, I mean, it became popular because of pay, but it's been happening for.
Oh yeah,
forever.
But it hasn't been large. There's been
and we have
small.
the internet now.
The market share of transactions is probably tripled, if not quadrupled. It's gone from like 1% to 5%, probably.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, so
it's all those low mortgages. That's the reason why. Like you're saying, the 2020s where we had these 2%, 3%,
low mortgages and a stuck marketplace,
with
and that
equity.
being a solution.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so you're learning about BRRRRs. You go into 2018.
Yep.
And then what do you do?
So I heard Wholesaling Inc. was on a podcast, and that was at the time they were the ones doing the most wholesaling, and they had really good education behind it. And the guy leading the front there was named Cody Hoffine. So I signed up for their mentorship. I paid, I think it was like $8,000 to get into it, and it's all postcards. So all the marketing is heavy postcards. And I spent like $20,000 in postcards.
A waste of money.
And got no deals. But it's not I don't blame them at all on that. It's when you get inbound leads, like I would look back on those leads now and I would convert a lot of them. I didn't know what to do with them. I had people calling me and they had situations. I didn't know how to solve them. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to move them through a sales funnel or anything. So it was a waste for me because I didn't have the sales end of it at that point.
You got the leads, you just didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah, and all these, like my CRM had hundreds of leads and people calling it. And now when I go back through some of those ones, I'm like, wow, I could have done so many of those deals. But you learn
with the tools you have in your toolbox today.
Yes,
you have to learn over time.
Yes, 100%. So I was listening to more Bigger Pockets. They had a guy in there talking about, he was doing all this crazy stuff. He was taking over mortgages. He was getting to houses for no money down. He was doing BRRRR deals. He was doing every type of deal, and that was Pace. Pace was on that, and that's when I went down the this is in 2020. So I went down the rabbit hole of still analysis paralysis, same issue where I'm still not taking action but learning. And then I joined Sub 2 in April of 2022. And that's when everything changed.
What made you so interested to study this for so long? I mean, this is seems like a boring topic to geek out on.
And you spent like $40,000 prior to buying any deal on education.
Oh my God.
You could have just bought a deal with $40,000.
Dude, I could have bought a house.
Were you addicted to learning?
4 houses.
Like,
100%.
You just loved it?
Well, everything that I've ever done, you guys probably relate. I think we're all on the same wavelength where you get on a topic and you're so obsessed with it that you can't see anything else. Does that relate to anybody here? Yeah, exactly.
One track mind.
Yes. So that's where I was.
But why? So what made you not take action?
You know what? I think. Well, I took action with. I would hit the same roadblock. So in my construction company, since I was doing all the sales, so at all points through all this, I was always on the front end of sales, and finding salespeople and training salespeople was always one of the weak spots I've had. So I would get to a point where the construction company would be so busy that I wouldn't have time to do, anything else other than that. So the things that changed is that I brought in an estimator. Like one of the things I changed in my process, I actually had a guy, I taught someone to go out and be like a waiter. Go on Mike's job, meet him, take notes, take a video, take the footages, and then upload them to Dropbox, and then I would get them and I would sit at the office all day. So I went from doing like 8 appointments in the field all day to where I could sit in the office and do the same amount of work in like 2 hours, looking at videos, looking at scopes, sending out estimates. And that changed. So then I had more time to do real estate. So that's where I bought back my time, basically.
I love it. So you still in drywall today?
Yeah, still in drywall.
Is that what Indigo specializes in?
Oh,
yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful.
And then Mike called him a crook.
Yeah.
Not call him a crook.
No.
Like, you very clearly did not call him a crook.
He just said he's going to jail. He's not a crook.
I'm trying to give a very clear entire picture of, hey,
he's a bank fraudster, not a crook. Come on.
Mike's got some handcuffs. He's going to...
People come to Deal Junkies because they want the entire spectrum of what they're getting into. They don't get here for just the bullshit to fucking get motivated and go get in trouble.
100%.
Yes.
Okay, so then...
But it is very depressing to know that he's like in our office doing all this drywall work, and it takes 3 years after that you start doing deals.
I know.
And then 5 years, so 8 years after doing my office, I find out you're doing deals, and we never have done a deal together. And he's sending postcards and he's getting leads and never called us like, hey, how do you negotiate a deal? Do you want to?
You're right though. So that, you know what, my mentality though wasn't in that space of going, community and going to people. Like, I paid for education, and it kind of didn't really, that's the difference between Sub 2, because we have like a really strong community, especially locally and then nationally and all that stuff. So,
and that's what I was going to point out is you weren't in a community showing you. So you were looking at the trees instead of the forest. It's just like Ryan Heltemus, and I'm assuming you guys are friends.
We're good buddies.
It's the exact same thing where you come out of the shadows and then just start taking over. It's awesome.
Start doing stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so you learn about Subject 2 and you start seeing that. You spent the money and then you start doing deals at that point in 2020?
Yeah, 2022. So that's when I joined. That was the impetus. Like, literally once I joined the community, at the time they're doing this one, it had completed like maybe 8 months before. It's called the Zero to Hero Challenge.
Oh, I saw that back in the day.
So Zero to Hero. Yeah, you saw the marketing for it.
Yeah.
And it's real basic. It's just you find a market. They teach you how to find a market. You pull a list. It's like tired landlords or, like the typical list, the foreclosures, that kind of stuff. And then you skip trace it, and then you hire a VA, and then the VA calls, and then you just take the inbound leads, and, But their sales training is so much better in Sub 2. See, that's the difference that I was missing before.
Dang, so you learned about it in 2020 and then did the deal in 2022.
Yep, 2022.
And then you built from 2022 to 2025 a $13+ million portfolio.
All during that period.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you say obviously you wish you would have just started buying deals in 20?
Oh, for sure, dude.
Yeah.
Did you learn more on your first 5 deals in those first 7 years, or was it on those first 2 deals in those first 7 years?
I would say first like 3 deals, you learn 80%. But we're still coming across stuff right now that I've not had to deal with before. Every deal's.
But that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to get yourself into bigger deals so you can figure it out.
So what market did you pick, and what would that first deal look like?
It was like here in Portland. So I picked Portland, Salem, Vancouver, and my first one that I got under contract was this dude in Sherwood. So literally like 10 minutes from my house. And the VA put it into the CRM, and it popped up, and this is the first time they actually marked it as like a hot lead, because all the other ones are cold leads. And I'm like, what makes this one a hot one? So I looked at the notes, and it said the guy's ready to sell right now at $260, and the house was worth in this area like $550, like houses were going for.
The VA knew.
Yeah,
we got one.
Yeah, it's like
we got a fish on.
So do you even do something, or is it just a cash offer?
No, this is a cash. This was a cash one. So literally, so as soon as it came in, I caught the guy. His name's Larry. I called him up. I go, hey, Larry, you just talked to my associate, and he said you're looking to sell. He's like, yeah, I'm looking to sell. I go, okay, well, what's your timeline? He's like, right now. I go, okay, well, they said you're looking for like 260. He's like, yep, 260. Come over right now. I go, okay, I'm getting in the car.
So why was he distressed?
You know what? I couldn't even figure out at this point. I didn't really know what his situation was going on. But once I got over there, he kept telling me, it was the saddest thing. He's like, I'm gonna die. And I'm like, Larry, why are that's like within the first 5 minutes. He's like, I'm gonna die. I'm like, well, why are you gonna die? He's like, well, my sister has this health problem, and my parents had this one, and I'm like, Larry, you seem really healthy. I don't think you're gonna die, Larry. He's like, no, I'm gonna die. I'm like, is that why you want to sell? He's like, yeah, that's why I want to sell. So we went and walked the whole property. I got the purchase and sale agreement. I brought it with me. We sat down at his table, and then this is the first time I've had anybody like the sales process kind of stalled out. Like I got the contract in front of him, I got the pen, and we're like sitting there, and he wouldn't sign. I'm like, well, what do I got to do? I literally sat there it was like 2 hours. I just wore him down. I just sat there and just kept talking, and then bringing him back to the contract. The dude finally signs. I leave and go home. But the part that I messed up on this one, I didn't know anything about septic systems. And Larry was selling just the house, and he owns all this property behind it, but the septic system needs to leach out into that. But he would only sell me the house. I'm like, he's like, you got to figure out some way to do the septic. I'm like, shit, I can figure this out. I'm like, how hard can the septic system be?
Oh God, how hard was it?
Well, it killed the deal. Like we couldn't, like we tried to wholesale it. We had a buyer lined up. We're gonna make $30,000 on it. It was like a
Why didn't you want
wholesale.
to buy it yourself if it's half
Well,
price?
because okay, so this is where my mind. This is you'll find out more on my second deal. I thought I needed to go through the paces and be a wholesaler.
Oh.
I thought I needed to wholesale.
No, skip that part.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to wholesale. You can just skip and be a buyer. I didn't learn that after my second deal.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm going to wholesale this thing. We brought a buyer
This
in.
only took you 2 deals to learn it.
Yeah, true. I mean, it actually happened during the second. So that was the first one I got under contract. Fell out. We had to cancel. Couldn't get the septic system done, so that ruined it.
Why wouldn't he sell the land?
You know, he wanted that for a future because they're developing
He
the other
was going
side
to die,
of it.
but wanted a future.
Right. I know. It was
I gotta sell the
really
house
weird.
right now, but all this other stuff I gotta keep.
Got an easement. Could have got an easement for the leach field.
Oh, see, these are all things you learn after.
Yeah. So you
Should've
didn't
called
actually
Mike.
get to close this deal.
No, that one
Okay.
canceled. It bounced. I was bummed out.
Did
I
he
was like,
sell it later?
No, he's still there. I drive by it. I'm thinking
Let's go
about
buy it for $260.
I know.
Let's
I think about
go.
circling back on Larry and see how he's doing.
Larry figured it out.
Larry probably did.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that was within. So I joined Sub 2 in April. That first one, I started right away. Like I took action. I got the whole system set up. I got the first one under contract, Larry's house, within 30 days. And then I had another lead come in that we got under contract 2 weeks after. And that's the first one that I closed on. House in Beaverton. The guy had squatters in there. So like he was in really, that's his motivation to sell. He was in really bad shape. The first conversation I had with him, I was like, how long have they not been paying? He's like, oh, it's been a couple months. I'm like, ooh, that must be really rough. He's like, yeah, it's pretty bad. Second conversation, he's like, no, it's been a little over a year. So like, he keeps on sliding this timeline, and we're like, this is so weird. And then, but at closing, he tells me, he's like, I'm so relieved. Like, he was so insanely relieved. I'm like, why are you so relieved? He's like, they had been in that house and hadn't paid me for over 15 years.
Oh,
What?
Oh, couple months.
15.
Couple months.
That is a couple of months.
Yeah, like 180 of them.
So what? He just didn't know what to do or how to do it, or because he could have just paid $3,000 and got him out.
Exactly. The dude was so rich because in the conversation he goes, guess how much I pay. I love when people ask me to guess. I'm like, how would I even know? He's like, guess how much I pay in taxes every quarter. I'm like, I have no idea. He's like, $250K.
So he didn't care. It's just a headache.
He did not care. He's like, I got to deal with this sometime. He put it off for 15 years.
And from his point, okay, so it's $3K a quarter, $12,000 a year, 15 years, $180,000. You probably made that in appreciation. Doesn't matter.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
100%. He bought it a long time ago.
And then made 10 times that in free brain space by not dealing with it.
yeah.
Yeah. So you came in, you solved the problem for it, and you made it a win-win.
Yep.
But what did that deal look like? Did you subject to that one?
No,
or
that
how'd you-
was, he owned that free and clear. So we
Okay.
agreed on, so this is where I messed up. So negotiations, as you go through and do more of them, you get better at them, right? That's the
You hope so.
move.
I don't know if that's always true.
I squatted up on this one, so I brought a partner in because my intent was to wholesale it. Like, this is where I turned because it started out as a wholesale deal. And I got some advice. I go, how much are we looking to, what do we need to get this at? My partner goes, we need to be at 230 to flip it. 230. So I went back to Larry. Or no, his name's not Larry. His name's, I'm forgetting his name right now. I went back to him and I said, hey, we can do 230,000 cash. He's like, oh, that's way too low. I can't let it go for that. And I go, okay, well, let me see what we can do. Like, what are you open to terms? And he goes, well, what are terms? And I said, oh, it's an installment sale where we're gonna, turn you into the bank. And he goes, okay, well, let me know what that looks like. So I called back my partner. I'm like, okay, where do we need to be now? He's like, we need to be around, don't go more than, I think he said, don't go more than 300,000 to do a seller carry. And I go, because that's a far cry from 230. Like, that's a lot more money.
20 plus more.
But he ran the numbers. He's like,
more.
you can go up to this much. And I'm like, okay. So I call him back and I go, okay, well, we can't. And this is where I messed up because I should have started out at like 260 because that seems more, that's more reasonable, right? Like, go 230, 260.
I'll give you 300.
I did that exact thing. I go in, how about 300? He's like, done. I'm like, oh God, I screwed up so much. But then I was able to save it. He goes, well, what kind of interest rate? And I go, well, at 300, we can't afford to give you any interest.
Just principal
Principal only.
Okay.
And he sat there quiet for like 15 seconds, and that's where
a deal for him still.
Yeah, it is. And that's where I knew to be quiet. So I just sat there, was like uncomfortably quiet for very long. And he thought it over, and he's like, "Yeah, I can make that work." I'm like, "Okay." So yeah, so we got a 0% interest. Payments are $902 a month. We had a 5-year balloon on it. So, and it's an Airbnb right now.
No money down?
No. We had to give him five grand down.
Okay. So you're a new investor at that point. Were you scared of the tenant problem?
No, not at all. I've never been afraid of tenant because I've had tenants in my other, at this point.
Oh, I guess you had a couple rentals.
2 rentals, yeah.
What year is this?
This year.
That's 2022 you're talking
about.
Yeah,
2022.
Okay, so this is post-rent control rent.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been really afraid of, but I don't know. I've had bad tenant experiences since then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. You probably have more, and you're have plenty more too.
Yeah, but what's your worst tenant experience?
Holy smokes! Okay,
I guarantee you it's not worse than mine.
All right. Well, you tell me. I'll okay.
Well, I bet mine's SWAT break into a unit last week.
That's right. I listened to that.
Yeah. We're gonna have a bad tenant.
Battle off.
Well, okay. So Tacoma, Washington. They passed some legislation to where you can't evict people after October 1st eviction ban through April 1st.
During COVID?
No, this is right now. This is okay. You can't
winter
do it.
Time.
No, you don't want to throw people out in the cold, if they stop paying.
Only in Tacoma.
Only in Tacoma.
It only gets cold there. Everywhere else is pretty warm in Washington.
Exactly. So Tacoma, there's a sub 2 deal that we purchased 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. And it went great this actually house was troubled house from the beginning because during escrow, the agent that brought us the deal, he was supposed to maintain the heat on it. So the lady, all the heat went out. She wasn't paying her heat. And we told the agent, like, hey, we need you to go over there and put some heaters in it. It's going to be cold this weekend. He's like, sure, I got you. I got this. I'll go take care of it. He calls us like 4 days later and goes, the pipes all froze. And we just unthawed them, and all the pipes are broken. So we're in escrow. I felt bad for the seller because she was going to get like $20,000, and all the repairs were like 18 grand to get everything fixed. This is before we even bought it. So this is how it started.
Oh.
And then once after we closed, it actually went really smooth. We did a midterm rental. So it was unfurnished rental. We got some insurance people in there, and it was cash flowing really well. They left, and then we decided we're going to sell it on lease option. But me and my partner both live, he lives in Vancouver. He's now in Boston. And I live in Tualatin. So we had no boots on the ground to handle this whole process. So that's why I would recommend, if you're going to do these ones, make sure you have some boots on the ground and have people that are, vetting everybody. So these people came along, and they agreed to the option fee of $20,000, and we had a good rent rate of like $3 grand. So they fill out they sign all the paperwork. They give us the money. They ACH it into our account. So it pops in the account. We're like, okay, we're great. We see all the money there. They proceed to move in. Then the money gets pulled out of our account 2 days later.
Whoa.
2 days later. We call them up. We're like, hey, what's going on? They're like, oh, there's some problem. We heard from the bank. Don't worry. We got you. We're putting it back in. So we see the money go back in. We go through the same cycle for 2 weeks.
How do they ACH out of your account?
They had NSF funds. So the money showed up. So did a pull in. So it showed up in our account, and then it would be pulled back.
What's an NSF fund?
Non-sufficient funds. Non-sufficient.
Oh, okay.
Like writing a bad check, basically, but they ACH'd a bad check.
So 2 weeks into it, ghosts us. It's crickets. So now we can't get a hold of them, and we're like, what do we do with these people?
And they know.
Oh, they know.
They had done this before.
Oh yeah,
dude. They know. And it was a train wreck of a situation because the people that moved in, now they've cycled. So the dude went through a he broke up with his girlfriend wife, brought in a new girlfriend or wife. So we're trying to figure out who these people are that are living there. And they're from a distance. So we're going through the process. We're trying to make contact. We're trying to get them out. We start the eviction process. So we got our attorney involved. They go through the whole thing. We're so happy. Like in January, we finally got approval to evict them. Mm-hmm. He sends it over to the sheriffs to actually go and do the lockout. And then it's been cricket. It was crickets for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then he's like, Rob, I got bad news. I'm like, what's the news? He's like, oh, apparently there's this, which our attorney should know this, right? If they're doing these. So apparently we can't evict anybody until April 1st. It's in January, so we're like, oh, what do we do now? So we're like, we go cash for keys. Let's just try to get these people out. So we send over somebody in the sub 2 community. We sent them actually to go door knock. So they're door knocking it, not getting anywhere. We finally get this person, this lady and her English was really bad. So it was really hard to communicate with her. Finally gets her to come to the door, and we get her contact info, and I'm texting with her, but she doesn't have like a regular phone. Do you ever text somebody that's got like a burner phone or something to where it's like you don't know if the texts are going through? Yeah. They show up weird. The photos, everything shows up weird on this one. We're communicating with this lady. She's telling us this, and it's so weird. What are the odds that the previous guy's girlfriend or wife and the most current one both have cancer, are getting chemo at the same time? What are the odds of that?
It's amazing.
Pretty crazy, right?
Amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a story that works.
Yeah, and I'm like,
does he work at the oncology center? Or?
That's where he's picking up his chicks.
They keep bouncing. They're out of network.
Oh, so good. So there's all these excuses, and she's saying this stuff. So she's trying to make us feel bad for trying to, get him out. And the part so we're going along, and we're working towards cash for keys. So we actually get her to agree. And at this point, we've figured out that the original renter moved in. It's parents, son, and then the son. He's an adult son, so like he's in his 20s or early 30s. I don't know how much or what age. But we find out that the parents are gone. The son's still there. Okay, so Philip's there, and Linda. I'm talking to her, and I go, so, like, who's in the house right now? Because I'm trying to figure out, to update this eviction stuff. Like, who's in the house? We find out that she's got kids. She's like, oh, it's me and my kids. I'm like, adult kids? How old are the kids? No, they're under 18. Okay. So now it changes everything because it extends the eviction timeline. Mm-hmm. It goes from April 1st. Now it's like June, whatever. So our timeline just grew. So we're negotiating with her, but she's like, as I'm on the phone with her, she gets really quiet and starts whispering. I'm like, what's going on? She's like, well, Philip doesn't know it yet, but I'm going to be leaving him. I'm like, okay. Sounds good. I'm like, and then this is such a weird question to ask.
Can you do that tomorrow?
It's such a weird question to ask any normal person, but then I go, are you going to take the kids with you? And she's like, absolutely. And I'm like, okay, we know that we can get her and the kids out, and then we just have to deal with the dude. I'm like, well, where's Philip at? And she's like, well, I'm not sure. I think he's in jail. You think he's in jail? Yeah, he's in jail. Okay, cool.
Sweet. Move out. We'll change the locks.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, so how soon can you get out, and how much do you want? So we negotiated. We got her for $3,000, so $3,000.
What's your payment on this place monthly?
Oh my God, we're burning $2,200 a month. Yeah, $2,200 a month for like 8 months. Mm-hmm. So she agrees cash for keys. We send our sub 2 guy over there, Talon. Talon goes over there, gets her the money. We asked him to walk the house first to make sure. We're like, dude, walk the house. Make sure that's not completely destroyed, because that's going to change how much cash we're going to negotiate with Linda. He walks the house. He's like, yeah, it's dirty. It's got garbage and stuff. But it looks okay. I'm like, okay, cool. So we agree. He changes the locks. We pay her the money. We get her out. We send our contractor over there because we got to get it junked out. He's like, have you been in this house? I'm like, no, dude, not been at all. He's like, I have not smelled dog piss this bad ever. We're like, how bad is it? He's like, they're pissing on the walls. They're pissing on the floors. Like, we don't think the dog ever went outside. Like, only in the house. So we replaced all the flooring. We replaced some drywall, the frickin' base. Oh, yeah, subfloor. Oh, my God. So we're into it. I think our repairs are like $16K on top of it.
Yeah, $35,000. Not a big deal.
I mean, well, that's the cool part. You still made money on this
deal.
Yeah,
we're still good.
You went through all of this, about worst you could, and you still made money.
So why can't people hear a tenant horror story and hear the good part about it? Like,
I don't think there's anything good about that one.
Deals? Dude, the good thing is you didn't lose money. You still on the property.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
No, I love telling honestly, I love these stories. So, everybody's got to have one, right? You have to go through the tenant from hell story. So
yeah, you do.
Like SWAT team. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you haven't had SWAT people in your unit, you haven't been a landlord.
Property managers.
That just happened to you for the first time.
Oh, I've had police break.
Hey,
yeah. First time SWAT.
We had SWAT.
Yeah.
It was our closing gift on a property. The first day we had it, or second
They
day
go through the door or the window?
They metal
They
plated
shot
up
the guy
they shot
running
him.
out the front door.
No, he jumped out
in
the
our
window.
front yard.
No, he jumped out the window and he tried to run away from them, and they shot him.
He lived.
Because this is Salem, not Portland. They shoot people in Salem.
Yeah. But they tased him or like...
No, they shot him
with
with a gun.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And he lived.
Yeah. They were all drug dealers, and they were trying to...
They had counterfeit money all in the unit. So, like, the property manager sent us photos, and you could see, like, the bills half and half.
It was a property we had just bought. We were taking over, trying to figure out what's going on, just like you were.
So we bought this on seller carry, and then no one paid us rent after we bought it. And we turned all
of course. They hear the change.
It's nice of the SWAT team to evict your tenant for you.
They've been trying to do it for weeks, dude. And then what happened was the tenant left at some point, and the tenant across went and kicked the door down or something.
We were trying to go process an eviction. They wouldn't leave, and they all left, and we somehow got in and changed the locks. And so then they were trespassing, and somebody broke in a window to go back into the building, and one of the tenants called in and said, hey, somebody just broke into the unit next to me. And because of that address, I guess it was on the list, the naughty list for the police, and they're like, the cops wouldn't go there, so they had to send SWAT. Like it had to be like a special team.
Of force.
Yeah, so they showed up. They showed up, and dude saw SWAT roll up, and he took off. And they're just like, bam, bam, lay down.
But now the whole complex is turned, and it's pretty nice.
Everybody was like, yeah, we got rid of all the riffraff. It took a little while, but those are, it's fun.
And they were selling meth in one of the units too.
Man, those
awesome,
bad guys.
Dude. That's awesome.
Good thing you won't see them in due on sale jail, Rob. Those are the bad guys.
I won't be hanging with them. I'll be hanging with Pace and everybody else in due on sale jail.
You might be hanging out with Phil from the oncology clinic, though.
Yeah, for sure. Phil's definitely. He might be in the same cell.
All right, let's get back on track.
Maybe
Where were
you
we?
get your 35 grand back.
Yeah, exactly. I highly doubt it.
So when did you start like scaling and really getting into it? Because you do these first few deals, you start learning all this stuff. You learn about the different methods you're doing. You start doing burrs, I'm assuming at some point. Mm-hmm. Also, you're doing cash deals. You're wholesaling some. You're subject toing. Like, how did that all evolve over time?
Yeah, so after the first, it's like I think it's like a confidence boost. Like when you get that first one done, you're like, oh my God, this is easy. So then there's so many wholesalers that are selling sub-2 deals and, well, obviously cash deals, but sub-2, especially in Oregon, there's not as many of them. It's real big in like Arizona and there's different areas, but we still get them. I mean, like Discount Property Wholesaler Brad, he has a lot of sub-2 deals. Like he must get like a couple a week.
And he should be buying all of them.
He should be 100%. So that's how I went. I just started working with wholesalers and founding. So I source some of the stuff myself, but other people would bring them. Just like this last one in Salem, somebody in the sub-2 community out of Arizona was marketing here in Oregon and got this house under contract in Northeast Salem.
Yeah, and a lot of these people are looking at it to make that quick, like 10 grand or so, and it's perfect for you because you're thinking long-term hold and you see the long-term vision on it. So. That's awesome. And then you're able to close them because a lot of those wholesalers, I'm assuming, they know the high-level concept, but they don't actually know the intricacies of how to make a deal work, I'm assuming. So like these wholesalers probably bring it to you, and then you're probably doing everything and closing it at that point?
Yeah, I have JV deals where they'll bring me, they're like, I have this thing. I know the seller wants to sell. I don't know how to do the paperwork. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to set up. They don't know how to do servicing and do all the, the aspects that you need to complete one. So yeah, I do a lot of JV stuff, which I like because it's easier for me to, especially because some of the ones people bring me, they don't negotiate it to where, well, I mean, it's all in the eye of the buyer, right? So as the buyer, you look at it and go, does this make sense to me? Does it not make sense to me? So a lot of those ones I've had to go and renegotiate, whereas like this works, but if I change this bit here, then it, then I'll be a buyer.
So how are you able to understand
This is a great segue into another episode.
Dude,
we're pretty long.
No, so
fine. Sorry, everybody. You're going to get how to be a transactioneer and do these deals.
We'll do it. We'll do it in the next one.
Well, let's wrap this up and talk about where are you going from here. You've built this big portfolio. You have a lot of equity in it. You're cash flowing because you got a bunch of low rate debt. Like, what are you doing next?
Perfect. I'm taking some of the single family as they mature. Like I have a tenant moving out of one here in Salem. And I'm going to talk to the team. Like, I think I want to do lease option on it, but I want to exit on lease option on all these ones. And then as they sell, then I'm going to take that money and go into 3-plex, 4-plex, upgrade the assets.
Sounds like you want to build your monopoly board via sub 2 and then turn that into different type of financing down the road.
100%.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're doing that with an equity bump and a finance change through a 1031. Yeah. All right, can we do the next episode?
Jeez, Mike.
I want to keep talking to Rob. Screw you, man. You're
Dude,
All
we
right,
got
fine.
it. It's 106
Fine.
minutes or whatever. An hour and 6 minutes. We're like 10 minutes
All right,
past.
we'll go into the next deal episode.
That's when we can get the nitty gritties of how do you actually do the paperwork, be a transactioneer, how do you negotiate it, like how do you create a strategy around it.
I want to hear more about Rob, though.
Before we do that,
We don't care about Rob, dude. We just want to know about his deals.
I do have a question for Rob. So you're still working your construction company. How much of your life is dedicated to running your construction company and growing that versus growing your portfolio? How do you balance the now money, tomorrow money, your investment? I mean, is the business eventually going to fade into the background as this grows, or are you trying to grow both simultaneously?
So right now it's more of maintenance, just maintaining the construction business and doing real estate. So that's where I'm at right now. My time level always goes up when we have cash flow meetings, like, oh shoot, we need to put some more effort into here, or like make sure that sales are going right or collections are going right. So that's where I get drugged back into doing more of that part. But I have an awesome team though. I have like my sisters at the business, my parents are there. They're just amazing, especially my brother-in-law, because we also have another company too. It's water damage, so we do water damage restoration. In that business, my brother-in-law runs that one, and he built it, grew it. He's a complete rock star, like the most amazing. Like you meet some people that are just good business people. That's my brother-in-law. It's like just amazing.
What's the name of his business?
Restoration One of Portland.
Restoration One.
Yeah,
Okay.
Restoration One. So we have Portland, and then we have one in Phoenix, Arizona, and then we just opened up Restoration One of Corvallis.
Oh, and you're part of that.
Yeah, I'm part of that too. Yeah.
Okay.
It's me, my dad, and my brother-in-law.
Do these construction companies vertically integrate into your real estate holdings? Like, is it helping you own more real estate, or?
100%. So like when we, for example, like I have a flip going right now in Vernonia, and oh my God, having our guys go out and do the drywall, like it's so cheap, drywall, insulation, paint. We sub out other stuff. Our guys can install cabinets, and they can do trim and millwork and doors and things like that. But so we'll sub out some of it, but we do a lot of stuff in-house. So like our timelines are really tight. Like this Vernonia one, we closed on it April 30th, and it was down to the studs. Seller did the framing wrong, plumbing wrong, electrical wrong. So we had to actually replace all that. But we got our permit, and we're right now we're siding and drywall textures on Monday. Next week we're gonna have cabinets installed. It's like we're gonna get this thing turned around like really, really fast. So that's
6 weeks or so.
6 weeks, yeah. So that's from permits all the way through.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say if people want to reach you, Rob's one of the most generous people with your time, and you share all this information. So if you want people to like ask you questions or bring you deals, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, Instagram at the Rob Harden.
Sweet.
The legend, Rob Harden.
You got to throw that in there at the legend, Rob Harden.
Imagine how much more famous you're going to be once you go to jail. This is going to be an episode
Completely
for the ages. I'm
The
gonna
Wolf
love
of
it.
Sub 2.
All right. We love you, Rob. We love you, Deal Junkies. This has been amazing getting to know Rob a little bit more. Rob Harden here in the studio. We will be back to talk more about deals soon. Stay tuned, and thanks for listening.